Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Spotlight on Sophos, the Arrow podcast. I'm Alex Beeson, the business manager here at Arrow for the Sophos business, and again, I'm joined by the wonderful John Hope from Sophos.
Brilliant. Thanks. Great to have you back, Alex. I had one of
Yeah,
your from Ireland last time around, but it's
indeed.
nice to have you back. Yeah, thank you for welcoming me on here once again. So as we always do, of course, we're going to go through some of the important technical updates for yourselves as Sophos partners. So lots of things, as there always is, to talk about. I guess it's probably wise if we start with some sort of structure and maybe begin with the endpoint side of things. Um,
Yes.
so there are a couple of updates, just procedural things really, within Software Central. A commonly asked question is about the removal of inactive devices. So our audience hopefully will be pleased to see that we've added in a capability within the Software Central dashboard that allows you to remove inactive computers and servers from groups that you select. And you can also determine what constitutes as being inactive. So you can set the time frame after which time, if a device doesn't check in, it's deemed to be inactive. So this is really good for a couple of reasons. One, from just a hygiene perspective of just getting rid of devices that aren't relevant anymore. It's also great from a licensing perspective as well, because obviously we don't want to be paying for licenses for devices that we're not using. So it's great for those two perspectives. Allied to this, there is also a device recycle bin that we've added in. So, we're all familiar with the concept of recycle bins for file systems and that kind of thing. The Software Central recycle bin is no different. So if you inadvertently delete a computer or a server, it will sit in the recycle bin, and then with a single click, you can restore it back into production. So if you accidentally delete something, then all isn't lost. You can bring it back and restore it. Um,
Always handy. We are human, ultimately.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things, just in case. And the other just in case measure as well that's probably worth a mention is you can always exclude a certain group. So sometimes there are use cases where you might have a device that you know isn't going to be used on a frequent basis, but you do want to keep it inside Software Central. So if you're going to purge devices, you can always create exceptions and drop devices into the exceptions group, so that you don't purge those when you're getting rid of inactive devices. So yeah, it covers all the bases there, really. Devices that you want to get rid of, devices that you deleted by mistake, and devices that you want to keep, even though they might otherwise be determined to be inactive. So some good little features there. I'm sure in particular our MSP partners will be delighted with that as well. Just again,
Definitely.
making life a little bit easier for everybody with that. Um, so that's the management side of things. There are a couple of updates as well, very specifically for the Linux platform. So you can now use Software Central to isolate devices from the network if you feel that they're under attack. So this allows you to block an endpoint from any kind of network communication, so that it doesn't spread infections. It doesn't allow the cyber criminals to pivot around the estate. It's something we've been able to do with other operating systems for a while now, but we've added that capability in for Linux as well. It's worth mentioning that there are hidden exceptions, so that you can still manage the device from Software Central. Obviously, if you block a device from any kind of network activity, you probably still want to manage it and you still want to have
Mhm.
visibility. So those exceptions are baked into the product to make sure you can still manage it, and obviously bring it out of the sin bin if you need to. Don't want to lose control of devices, so that's a feature that's in there.
Perfect.
Again, we've got some changes to security health status for Linux as well. So we've added in the ability for runtime detections to change the health status of a device inside Software Central. So runtime detections were only previously visible inside the logs and didn't affect the security health status. So it's great that that's presented in the GUI and also affects the health status. So if
Mhm.
we see something happening at runtime, we can automatically isolate the device and do all that kind of clever stuff that our audience will be familiar with for other platforms. So it's just basically bringing the Linux platform up to a little bit closer to feature parity with some of those more advanced features. We've also changed some of the dependencies for the Linux agent as well. So we used to rely on Alpine Linux for certain attributes of the endpoint protection agent. We've taken those things away to make it easier to deploy the Linux protection agent to various different flavors of Linux, and also to put them in container packages as well. So
Hmm.
we've taken a lot of those dependencies away to make things a little bit easier. And this is a first actually. I haven't talked about one of these in a long time. We've actually added in as well some new exploit mitigations.
Okay.
So this is a feature we've had in the product for a long time, the exploit mitigations, the anti-exploit techniques. Basically, there are a very limited number of approaches that a cyber criminal can use when they're trying to leverage loopholes in operating systems and platforms to launch their code. And when I say limited number, it's in the order of the low 20s. But we've actually added two new techniques in.
Okay.
So the basic ethos of this is that a cyber criminal launches a new attack, assuming it's using one of the methods that we know about. We're already protecting against it, and it is a rare day when a new method comes along. But
Hmm.
as I said, there's actually two that have been added in this time around. So one of them is it's called extended lockdown, and
Okay.
it's designed to stop loading of DLLs that have been dropped by a web browser. So this is one of those cybercriminal techniques of um, leaving a dynamic link library behind that's been dropped by a web browser, and then using that as an exploit method later on. So that one's now included. And another one, this is called hardware breakpoint. This is a bit like a kind of memory overflow style attack, but more
Hmm.
specifically for some of the controls around hardware. That again, if you bypass those things, then you can potentially bypass things like security software on there. So
Hmm.
as always, these things are under constant evaluation by Sophos Labs, and we keep changing the behavioral rules to keep on top of the new cybercriminal techniques. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
quite unusual to have those in. We've also made some additional tweaks to CryptoGuard as well. So CryptoGuard is our protection against the encryption of files as part of a ransomware attack.
Hmm.
We've extended the protection capabilities to include memory-based ransomware. So
Hmm.
ransomware that is being executed directly from memory. Um, and we've also added a capability in as well to run the CryptoGuard capability inside Windows Safe mode. And this is particularly good and pleasing because often the cyber criminals will force a device to reboot into safe mode because
Hmm.
they know that kind of generally speaking with all security software, the protection isn't quite as good if there is any protection at all, even under Windows Safe mode. So the Sophos agent can run under safe mode, but it's not previously been able to run CryptoGuard, but we've made some changes to allow it to operate in safe mode as well. So you've got that extra peace of mind that technique is now being covered as well. So lots of good news from a protection point of view on the endpoint there.
Yeah, perfect. Amazing. So, how about network security? How are things looking there?
Okay, so again, some management changes for network security as well. So we talked previously about the policy assessment capability. So just a little bit of a shout out to that. Version 1 is now available inside Sophos Central. You've got some capabilities around syncing firewalls. So if you join a firewall to a group inside Sophos Central, it used to previously force a complete synchronization.
Hmm.
So it would push out all the policies associated with that group and make all of those changes. There is now an option to skip that full synchronization. And it is a bit of a double-edged sword, if I'm honest, because skipping the full synchronization means that what your firewall is actually doing locally versus what Software Central thinks it should be doing might be slightly different. They might slip out of kilter. But the trade-off is obviously if you've just simply removed the device briefly from a group, or you've made some changes, or there's some other use case that means you don't want a full synchronization. Now you can tick a box when you add a firewall to a group. You don't have to force that full synchronization down. So a little bit of a management change there. Some tweaks for SD-WAN as well. So now
Hmm.
there's support in there for XFRM IP pools. So you can add in custom pools and create SD-WAN rules based around that as well. So again, just a little bit of extra flexibility.
Nice.
Then my favorite new addition for network security is the Sonic Wall Migration Assistant. Um, I know we've had this for a while, but this now supports there's newer versions of Sonic OS, so version 6.5 and version 7 of Sonic OS, and it will translate large parts of the configuration over to SFOS version 20, and now supports our XGS series of appliances as well.
Nice.
And we've made some improvements as well. But not only does it support both platforms, but it also supports as well a high level of config fidelity. So I have to emphasize it's not a magic trick that turns us config perfectly into SFOS, but it gets you a long way to it. So
Hmm.
that's great news for any partners that are currently swapping out Sonic Wall appliances for Sophos, which is an activity, of course, that we highly encourage.
Indeed, we do. Indeed, we do.
So those are the upgrades from a features and functions perspective. Just a bit of a heads up on some analyst reports. So Gartner have had us listed now as the highest rated firewall using Gartner Peer Insights, which I say analyst reviews. That's actually more of a user-based, community-based
Hmm.
uh, recommendation. So that's great. We're joint with Palo Alto in terms of our percentage
Hmm.
score, but we have more than double the reviews. So that's great.
Wow.
Willingness to recommend is right up there. 256 reviews, and in the mid 90s percentage for willingness to recommend is fantastic.
Yeah, amazing.
On the subject of peer reviews, my personal favorite G2. So TripAdvisor for cybersecurity, as I like to. We are top right hand, which is universally top right is the best place to be in these reports. So we are absolutely streets ahead from a customer satisfaction and market presence inside G2 for spring. So we're almost off the chart on there. So that's again great news for our firewall. So yeah, sell the Sophos firewall with confidence. Some great reviews and stuff there. There is a minor feature that I want to talk about within Sophos email that's been added in as well. Uh,
Okay.
so support for VIP impersonation. This is actually quite a clever technique. So Sophos Central Email will add a banner if it feels that an email coming in is likely to be a cyber criminal, either impersonating a well-known individual, particularly within your organization. So that kind of classic phishing attack of like, hey, I'm the CFO and I need to transfer $1 million to XYZ account. Those sorts of things. And also phishing protection against exploitation of well-known brands as well. So,
Okay.
sometimes you might see a cyber criminal trying to impersonate as a utility company or a
Hmm.
transport company or something like that. So if Software Central has an inkling that this is likely to be impersonation, even if it's not a specific name match, but just kind of same style or tone or alluding
Hmm.
to a position of privilege, then it will put a banner up there. This is great because it just helps the human that's receiving that message to think, well, oh, should I be clicking on that link? Should I be transferring the £1 million? Should I just double check this maybe with something as simple as a phone call, which again we highly encourage. It just gives
Hmm.
us that moment to have a think about whether this is an action they really want to take place. So that's a nice little add-on feature as well. And again, from a review perspective, Kuppinger Cole has this top right. We just sneaked into the top right hand corner on this one, but that's great. It shows us as a market champion, and they were very impressed with things like our strategy and market capitalization. So it's nice to see us running with the big boys on Software Central Email as well. So we're really
Definitely.
again. So if you've got people running Software Central for other things like running their endpoints or firewalls, then why not simply add the email to that service as well? So yeah,
Exactly.
nice little review there. But those are all the sort of technology updates and report updates that I wanted to share. But the really big thing that I want to talk about really is managed risk. So Alex, have you seen much around the fact that we've launched managed risk? Is that across your desk?
Yeah, it has had some quite exciting stuff looking at that. But yeah, so I'm really excited to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, me too, actually. This is a really interesting direction. So it shows us on a bit of a journey, really, from cybersecurity
Hmm.
to the service. So we started out obviously purely providing tools, so software and hardware to protect organizations. But then
Hmm.
we started the MDR service that was only using our own technology. Then we allowed multi-vendor integration so that we could run MDR for organizations that maybe weren't using Sophos on their endpoints or had a firewall from a different vendor and all that sort of thing. And this is just another example of adding more cyber security as a service into the equation. So what is managed risk and what is it all about? Well, first of all, it's a partnership with Tenable.
Hmm.
So Tenable are a really well-known player in the attack surface management space, and we're really excited to be partnering up with Tenable because they've got some really great technology that helps an organization to understand what their exposure to risk is. So where do things need patching? Where do things need updating? Where are the config changes that should be made? And how to fix those problems as well. And what we are building around the Tenable technology is a team of experts that can actually guide an end user organization and help them focus on the things that are really important to them. Obviously, there are so many software platforms out there and so many updates that need to be done, and it's always that kind of question of where do you start and what's more
Hmm.
important to the organization. So we want to deliver a service with Sophos Managed Risk that allows end users to help understand what their attack surface looks like and how to mitigate against those issues properly and effectively, utilizing their team of experts to the max. And then also helping them work out what their priorities are and in what order to do things, and also to help out as well. If we get a large scale incident, a new log4j, for example, a new vulnerability which is really widespread, then our vulnerability management service there, the managed risk side of things, is there to help organizations to understand what their level of exposure is and should they be doing things. And somewhat uniquely, actually, this initially will be only available to Sophos MDR customers. Um,
Okay.
so you already have to be an MDR customer to get this. But it does lead to a really interesting use case that I'm really excited to explore at some point.
Hmm.
Is in that scenario where we have a really big, wide scale vulnerability, then between the two teams, one, we can tell an organization, yes, you're exposed to this and you need to fix, or no, you're in the clear. But also that can fire off an MDR investigation, and we can say, well, actually, you might be exposed to this, but we can't see any evidence in the logs that you've actually been attacked with this particular vulnerability. So
Hmm.
the peace of mind for the future about not being attacked by, but then also retrospectively being able to look and see, well, this loophole existed in the past, but it's not actually being exploited on site.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process to actually onboard. Really easy. So basically, just provide us with your external IP addresses, your domain names, and then we'll carry out a regular scan. At the launch, it's important to emphasize that this will only be external attack surface monitoring.
Hmm.
So basically, what is web facing? What assets have you got web facing that need to be updated and fixed and patched and all that sort of thing? But we will be adding in phases some extra capabilities. So the next phase, which will come along quite quickly, will also then be internal attack surface management.
Okay.
So it's not just what's exploitable from the outside world, but then also looking internally at
Hmm.
resources that may not be public facing, but still need updates and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then, as you probably would expect, the third phase is the phase where we decouple this from MDR.
Hmm.
We make it a standalone service. So you
Yeah.
don't have to be an MDR customer to have this and consume it. You can just go and buy it as a standalone entity. But those are all things that are coming down the line, hopefully coming down the line very soon. By the time this podcast goes out, this certainly will have been launched from a marketing perspective, but the licenses for managed risk will probably be available to buy by that point. So this
Perfect.
very timely stuff. And on the subject of licensing, as I said, it is an MDR add-on at the moment, but it
Hmm.
follows the same simple licensing model. So how many users have you got? How many servers have you got? And that's how it works. So it's really easy from a pricing and licensing perspective.
Perfect. I think that's really good from our side, from an Arrow perspective. I've been, because we hold Tenable as a vendor as well, and I've been chatting to the Tenable equal of mine, as it were, about looking at some collaboration stuff and obviously looking at how we put that together and bring that to our partner base to have that conversation. So I'd say obviously keep your eyes and ears peeled for things in the future where we'll look to do maybe some webinars, even maybe some joint events, just to talk over how this can support from both angles, not only from a software side, but from a Tenable side, and how we can bring that to market as a solution for our partners at the same time. So yeah, like I say, keep eyes and ears open, because obviously as that develops and those phases come out and it becomes a standalone product, it'll become yeah, more and more relevant to more and more people. So we'll make sure we're shouting and screaming about it as much as possible.
Fantastic. Sounds good.
So I know obviously it's the start of a brand new Sophos year, and typically that brings us a whole host of Sophos roadshows that I believe are coming up this quarter.
It does indeed. It means all of those things. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite time of year. I do love to get out on the road and do the thing. So I'm very excited. Yeah, we recently had a series of MSP get-togethers, but the focus now has shifted to a couple of forthcoming events. So Sophos Experience is the name for the Sophos Partner Roadshow for 2024. And
Okay.
I'm really excited about this for two reasons, actually. One of them is that I love shows and I love events, and there's some pretty exciting venues that go alongside these, but also really excited as well, just to see some of the content. I've had a sneaky peek at some of the stuff that's coming. It
Ah,
looks really, really interesting. So yeah, let's talk about the venues. So we will be going to Stockholm on the 30th of May. There's a fantastic hotel just outside Stockholm that we'll be utilizing. That's also a winery, so that's going to be great. Um,
lovely.
then we have a cycling theme in the UK. So we get to London on the 12th of June, and we'll be going to the Velodrome in the Olympic Park, which is exciting in itself. What a
Hmm.
great venue. We also have Sir Christopher Hoy in to speak as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how much he's going to talk about software technology, but I guess he's probably going to do some motivational stuff as well. So that's going to be really interesting to hear from him. And then on the 2nd of July, we're going up to the Velodrome in Manchester.
Hmm.
This one's exciting because we'll actually have the UK Olympic team practicing on that day. So we get to see some athletes in action
Wow.
in between talking about cybersecurity. So yeah, whatever your thing is from a cycling perspective, there's definitely something there for you. So that'll be great, great education experience, a bit of fun as well. What's not to like? The only caution is that these events do always get fully booked. So if you're listening, then please do register for those sooner rather than later. Just make sure you got yourself a seat. Do get registered for that. These will be the event of the year, definitely. It's going to be
Yeah,
very exciting.
definitely. Yeah, and then obviously if you're missing the link, anyone listening to this, then reach out to my team. The guys have obviously got all the registration pages available, so drop them a message and they'll get them sent over so you can get signed up and don't miss out.
Yeah, fantastic. Highly encourage you to do that. But yeah, that's it. That is probably the updates done for this month, Alex. So thank you again for welcoming me on here to have a bit of a chat with you. It's always much appreciated. And I look forward to catching up with you on the next one.
Definitely. Thank you very much for the time, and thank everyone for listening, and thank you for your time. And we will see you in around a month's time. Thanks, everyone, and speak to you soon.